Coach, I think we're live, man.
It's good.
Like I said, everybody, we're rookies. So welcome to Coach Hargitt, and I'm Rick, and we're both with Surface to Air System. We've got a pretty cool thing to talk about today, Coach, that, with our Surface to Air members, we have a Telegram app, private Telegram app for our members. And about 10 days ago, you guys were talking, and there was a lot of complaints about 7-on-7 and the way 7-on-7's been done for years. And you came up with an idea, man.
Yeah, well, we we kind of had this idea this past summer a little bit, and it never really came to fruition. And then we got talking about it on, like you said, on the Telegram app with some of our members. And the problem that I have with 7-on-7 is it's kind of almost become never really for us the last few years. You know, it used to be something we took a lot of pride in and we got really excited about. We spent a lot of time on. But now it's almost just become a gimmick. You know, you got people out there running shovel passes and throwing balls behind the line of scrimmage, and guys taking 5 seconds to throw the ball. And defenses are dropping 9 people and playing man under 2 every snap. And you're not getting anything that looks like a realistic look on Friday night. And as a heavy RPO team, I almost feel like we're almost like those wing T and flex bone guys now. You know, we go out and we work on our base defense, but we really don't get any offensive work anymore. And so we started kicking around the idea of getting an offensive tackle, defensive end involved, and actually allowing there to be run plays in a 7-on-7 environment where we can turn it into a true RPO style 7-on-7 and get our work that we really need to get in. And like all RPO teams, we also live in both worlds between the straight drop back and the RPO stuff. You're able to do both in this new format, which I think will make the 7-on-7s more of a legitimate practice and more worth your time.
Yeah, one big controversy or complaint I've always had is you go up against a defense and there's no integrity. The linebackers are playing 8 yards depth. You can't tell the difference between a linebacker and a safety. If you do have any play action pass, they do not react to it in a natural game-like situation. And we're supposed to, simulate games. That's what we always talk about in Surface to Air, simulate the game with our GPS practice model. And you can't do that anymore with 7-on-7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a matter of fact, until we kind of got this format put together, other than this new S2A system we're talking about, I canceled all of our other 7-on-7s for this summer because I really don't see the purpose in them. I've got a new quarterback who was in the I last year that I've got to train to be an RPO style guy. And I don't want him going out there getting bad habits in the 7-on-7 portion of the season. And I thought back to what it looked like last fall. You know, I was trying to get a guy, first-year starter, ready for the RPO game. And he would stand out there and he's just throwing haymakers, with the wind blowing in his hair and throwing fade routes every play. And it's just not indicative of what we want. And to your point, you'll play those 3-3 stack teams and they're dropping 8 guys off in there and there's nobody in the box whatsoever. You're not going to see that on a Friday night. And I think, it just kind of – the way 7-on-7s are currently structured just almost runs contradictory to all the things we talk about with our GPS practice schedule, that we want everything to simulate the game. And so what this will do is this will create an environment, a platform where what we're doing in the summer is going to bleed into what we want to do in the fall.
Yeah, and I think there's I can see 2 potential pushbacks. One, I've been a defensive coordinator. A defensive coordinator is going to say, well, S2-7, this and that. Well, hey, defense, you've got to play honest. Your linebackers have got to be in the box. You've got to check run before drop. Your safeties, depending on how you play safeties, have got to do the same thing. So it's going to make kids perform in an honest way. So from a defensive coordinator standpoint, I want to get better simulating the game. I think that's one. Number 2, it's a safety factor also. One thing that we add in S2-7 is the flag element by the quarterback and the running back, allowing them to run on a mesh like a read option, inside zone read option. But them coming forward with the flag. Heck, 3rd graders in elementary school play flag football in their shorts. So I think it's good enough for high school kids, college kids to play in the summer. Anything to the safety factor or complaints by a defensive coordinator?
Well, I talked to you on the phone last night, and if you remember where I was going to help the coach run a flag football practice for my 6-year-old. And so, this is right along those same lines. Nobody has any issues with contact with those little guys. And so you've really created 2 months of the summer where you're doing that. To speak to the portion of a defensive coordinator, I just took a head coaching job, and my defensive coordinator, this is something I want him doing. I want him spending his time forcing those linebackers to read their keys, because I feel like after 2 months, and I said this last year, I've said this for the last couple of years, when you play that last 7-on-7 in July, whatever time of year you finish that up, I always say the same thing to our guys. I always say, at that point, I feel like we have to basically start reteaching the game of football from scratch, because they've developed so many bad habits all summer that you just can't get rid of those in a week. And so this is going to prevent that. And I think the defense develops bad habits very quickly, because at least we can stand there and throw drop back, which is something we will do in the fall. The defense has got all their keys messed up. And so I think this is going to train your defense. I guess the short answer is, if I was a defensive coordinator, I would be loving this. This would be the purpose of 7-on-7 to me, because it would simulate a game much more realistically.
Well, let's look at a couple slides here and show, this is out of a sniffer, and you're running a lock scheme here inside zone. One big thing is your quarterback and your back are the only ones that have flags on. Everybody else is playing 7-on-7. We are adding an offensive tackle and a tight 5 technique. That offensive tackle can only do one of 3 things. So sort of take us through this sniffer, inside zone, lock, pop, and explain a little bit more about S2-7 from this standpoint.
Well, what you've got out there on the perimeter, you've got the X receiver going out to stalk the L3. So essentially, as soon as those guys engage, they're both going to stop. Okay, they're going to be just like our left tackle and our defensive end. Once there's a block initiated, those 2 players are dead. Okay, and there's going to be a bubble out there, which means the L2 has got to go play the bubble. So the only read left is the left Mike. If the left Mike chooses to play the run, then obviously you're going to throw the football to the sniffer. If he chooses to play the pop pass on the sniffer, you're going to hand the ball in the box. It's now up to that right Mike to play run defense. And I think that's a lot more indicative of what you're going to see on Friday nights than just standing there and throwing those passes. That left Mike, right Mike are able to disguise their coverage. They're able to play some games. The free safety can cap that sniffer and rob that route. The left Mike can play the run. There's a host of ways the defense can defend themselves there, but they all have to be Friday night ways of defending themselves. And I think this is just a much better way to get everybody in the habit of playing the game accurately. If the R2 wants to roll back and get into a too high shell, then the quarterback would need to realize that. He'd need to go to the front door slant right there. All those things are happening on a Friday night between 7 and 11. So basically you're just practicing those things in June and July now.
Yeah, I want to we're going to give the offensive tackle 3 things to do, and in these slides we'll show all 3. But the first one is a turnout block, or what you call lock. What that offensive tackle is, he's in a stance, he's going to step, he's going to get hand and hat placement. The 5 technique is in a stance, key in the hat. He's going to react to this turnout block. One big thing that we're doing is we're working on stance, get off, set up, hand placement, but once they make contact, they're dead. The 5 technique cannot chase and pursue the football. So you are going to get a lot of great work, and that's something I'm always complaining about. What am I going to do with my linemen? Well, here's an alternative in S2-7 of working your linemen, but also working it in a safe way. Let's move on to the next slide. Here's just a 2x2, and this really essentially is all right, I'm going to run second down play here, and I'm just going to run a double slant. This is just regular old 7-on-7 right here with a twist.
Yeah. So now you're gonna pass set the tackle. So that left tackle gets a chance to work on his kick slide. The defensive end gets a chance to work on his pass rush technique. I was on the phone for 45 minutes with my offensive line coach yesterday, and everything we talked about was kick slide steps and quick set steps in pass protection. We talked about all those fundamentals. Well, when is your tackle doing that? When is he getting a chance to work those things? He's not even going to a 7-on-7 most of the time. Well, now your center gets to do it, your guard gets to do it, your tackle gets to do it. And again, there's no risk of injury because we're not letting those guys beat on each other and have anybody driven into the ground. They're just working their footwork. They're putting their hands on each other. Once they lock on and engage, they both go dead and stop. Now the defense has to play a legitimate 5 receiver eligible pass play like they do in any other 7-on-7 setting, except, again, the defense has to recognize this is a straight drop back with a free release by the back. That should trigger a defensive answer from them. It's different than the RPO world, and they have to distinguish that, and they have to make that reaction very quickly, just like they're going to have to do on Friday nights.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something a little bit controversial, so you don't have to. One thing I love about S2-7 is puts the game back into the high school coach's hands and takes out the AAU element where, hey, let's just get a team, let's recruit a team, let's do it as some kind of showcase bull crap and roll out the ball and you guys throw it around. This puts it back into a coach's standpoint because I know when I've been in 7-on-7s, that mic is at 8 yards deep. The underneath are all playing underneath zone or underneath man, and the 2 highs playing each at 23 yards deep.
Yeah.
And the quarterback sits back there and pats the ball, and it's not realistic from either standpoint. One other thing I just want to make sure that we reiterate, pass set, I'm getting off on the ball, I'm setting up. Once we make hand placement contact, we're both dead. The 5 technique's not going to come around and chase down the quarterback. The quarterback throws and hits his hand on the helmet and gets hurt. They're dead once there's hand placement. So that's a big thing, but they're still getting great work. Let's go to the next slide. Here's a play action pass. Again, a big complaint's been, shoot, I can't ever work on play action pass because the defense doesn't react with integrity. Go ahead.
Well, I can remember back when I first started coaching 20 years ago, you'd get wing T teams that would come in and they'd run waggle. And they'd run waggle every play over and over and over and over again. And after about 6 or 7 plays, you just got people running over there to the waggle spots and just camping out waiting on the routes. And those guys aren't getting any work. Well, in this structure, if that defensive end is just going to sit out there and camp out, he's just going to hang out. The offense could elect to hand that ball off to the running back and make that L2 and that Mike and that L3 account for that. In fact, I would tell the quarterback, if I was doing this in a 7-on-7, I'd say the first time up there, go ahead and hand that ball off. Okay, that kid's got flags on. They'll go pull his flag. He'll get a few yards. It makes the running back work on open field running, making guys miss. It makes your defenders work on adjusting and pursuing to the football. And then after once or twice of doing that, pull the ball, let your quarterback go out there, throw the ball. If you've got your defensive line coach at this 7-on-7 or your outside linebackers coach, whoever's coaching that 5 technique, he needs to be able to sit there and say, if you get veer release down by the tackle, back away, our answer is whatever. It's either chase it down and force the pull, or it's feather and defend the pass, whatever the case may be. Those principles have to be applied. And I think, again, that's just another example of how this is just a better way to do it. People always love to say, well, we're not reinventing the wheel. I love that statement. Everybody always wants to make everything sound simple in life. Well, in a very real sense, we are reinventing the wheel. We're trying to reinvent the wheel. And the reason why is, the first wheel probably was a round rock being rolled down the side of a hill. Okay, we don't have those on our cars anymore. Okay, now we've got stay flat tires that can survive puncture holes. Okay, that's what we're trying to do with 7-on-7. We're trying to make it even better than it was before. There was nothing wrong, I'm air quoting, with 7-on-7. You knew what you were getting into out there. But for too long, it's just been left as a blank slate where we're not trying to improve it. Here we're actually trying to do something where we make it a more structured defense versus offensive look, but we're still getting all that time to work on pass plays.
Something I wrote is, one thing is, remember, here's your 5 technique. And again, we make the rule he has to be in a type 5. He's got to react to this movement by the offensive tackle. Now, he can squeeze or he can feather, but remember, once he gets here to the line of scrimmage or makes contact, he's dead. So he's not coming up to contain the quarterback, and the quarterback, possibly gets tangled up with the 5 technique. When they get about right here, they're dead because they've already worked their steps, their reactions. Here's another thing. Once this ball comes across, or the running back comes across the ball and the ball's seated, Mike, R2, R3, R1 have to play legitimate defense. Is this going to be a handoff for an outside zone? Is it going to be a handoff for an inside zone? So you get a true play action pass reaction to this triangle over here. So again, another good factor. Let's go to the last slide here, 3-by-1 RPO here. So now we've got the offensive tackle veer releasing or inside releasing on a inside zone. Go ahead.
So this is what football really looks like now, right? I mean, you've got to make the decision. Am I going to throw the front door slant over there to the Z receiver? Well, you're going to have to decide what R2 is doing. That's what you're going to have to do on Friday night. It's a yes or it's a no. Okay, if you've decided it's a no, you can go over and look at your pre-snap alignment to your trip set. Well, pre-snap right now tells me I can throw the hitch to number 3 anytime I want. So I'm going to raise up and throw that ball, and I'm going to throw it repeatedly, and I'm going to walk the ball down the field until the defense chooses to take that away. All right, so how are they going to take that away? Well, the left Mike's going to have to push out there, and he's going to have to become a factor. Okay, well, if the left Mike pushes out there and the defensive end does not squeeze down with the veer release, I'm going to give that football. I'm going to give that football every time and just keep handing it off. Okay, if that defensive end squeezes down, the quarterback's going to pull. He's got his flag on. He's either throwing on the run or he is running the football until his flag gets pulled. That's realistic pre-snap and post-snap style RPO football. That quarterback is going to get better. Those receivers are going to get more quality reps, and that defense is going to get better at defending RPOs because they're in this style of 7-on-7. And that's just, I'm hard-pressed to see why this is not a better way to go about doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing, just another safety feature in this so that you're thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to bring in our tackle, bring in our 5 technique, and we're going to have dead gum. No, when he inside releases, so he's got to step inside, he's got to rip, dip, however you teach a good inside release, not letting that 5 technique get your hands on him. Once he comes up field, he's not allowed to go after a second level defender. What happens if you do that? Let's say he goes after the Mike or the left Mike comes in there and he butts up with him and maybe pancakes. The second play, that Mike is going to come head hunting for that tackle. Then all of a sudden you have a melee. No. Once he releases inside and comes up, he'll just hunker down there. He's worked on his release, his rip, his dip, his sifting up. He's done the 5 technique. He's going to squeeze down or whatever you ask him to do. And once they get to the line of scrimmage or make hand contact, they're done. So again, it's working on positive things. So I just wanted to make sure I added that. We're not going to get into every word here. I'll tell you everybody how they can get a hold of the rules. But basically, Coach, if whatever 7-on-7 rules that you've been in before in terms of penalties or starting at the 40-yard line, all that stuff applies. Right over here is the S2A specifics of what we do with the flag portion of the game, how we play the 5 technique, how we play the tackle. But any comments on this?
No, I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. One of the things that we looked at was you can see underneath the offense, 1 offensive point for any run of 10-plus yards not resulting in a TD. That's something that's a little bit new. It's a little bit of an addition to this. But I think it really – at first I was a little skeptical of that, and I kind of had to chew it through in my mind a little bit. The reason I think that's a pretty practical way of going about this is I've seen this. I've seen people that claim to be a 4-3 cover 4 defense, and I'll play them in 7-on-7, and their Mike is nowhere near the box. Okay, he'll be all the way out over number 3, covering him, taking away the route. And they'll have nobody standing in front of the quarterback. Well, if that's what they want to play, you're going to hand it to the running back, and he's going to run 10 yards, and the offense is going to score over and over and over all the way down the field. Okay, well, pretty soon you're going to get sick of that, and you're going to put a guy back in there, and now the offense has to adjust and throw the football back into the void. And, again, that's what we're all doing. I mean, the RPO is taking the game by storm. It's on Friday nights. It's on Saturday afternoons. It's now moving to Sunday afternoons. That's what the game is becoming. So why are we practicing 7-on-7 in a format that's not indicative of what we're going to do on game night? And I think these rules, I'm sure there's some things we've missed. I'm sure there's some things y'all can clean up on your own in your own states and in your own way of doing it. but we feel like we've provided a pretty stable platform for playing a more competitive and a more realistic style of summer competition.
Hey, I want to show, everybody something right here. Can you see my screen now here, Coach, with our new forum?
Yeah.
If you want to get all the rules, a full rundown, what we've established for surface to air system is a forum. Much like Coach Huey, and I give him total credit for bringing this to the world of football, but surface to air system has established a new forum, and the top board here is S27. So you can go into S27 and that board and comment about it, learn about it, see the rules. We've got a rundown of the rules. We'll put this video on, but it gives everybody a way to interact. Here's a video explanation of it. There's also a download that you can, I may not find it right now, but here it is, the whole concept right here in the download to get the rules, the description, so you can talk about it with your staff. If you want to get on the surface to air system forum, just like Coach Huey, just go in there and register, and you're in. So I think it's going to add some good things to our members. We have a S2A members area, S2 member area only, but for anybody that wants to talk spread, we've got boards about empty RPOs, sniffer RPOs, running game drills, passing game drills, technologies we use, forms and templates, book reviews. So I think it's going to be something good for us, Coach. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah. I've been on there already today, posting some stuff. It's really good stuff.
Well, hey, really appreciate you. Again, it just grew organically through a conversation about complaints on the old 7-on-7. High school coaches, college coaches need to take the game back, and this is going to require coaching. You have to know what you have to do on offense. You have to know now on defense how to defend it. Rolling the ball out, having a separate playbook for 7-on-7s and making things unrealistic can go the way of the dinosaur. Football's evolved. Let's evolve 7-on-7 to S27. I'll let you have the last word, and we'll take off, man.
No, I agree 100% with everything you said on that, Rick. To your point, people are creating stuff, and they say, well, I only run that in 7-on-7, but I don't really run that during the season. And I found myself doing that a little bit the last couple of years. We'll tag plays, you'll tag routes that you're not going to be able to run in the season, but you do it to win a 7-on-7. And I think that, there's a place for competition. There's a place for helping your kids win, but we all know you're not hired, fired, or you're not putting any food on your family's table by what your 7-on-7 record is. It's about what your record is in the fall. And so I think everything we do in the game of football needs to be tailored to getting those wins in the fall, getting our kids' stats up, getting our kids offers to college, all those things that we believe in. And I think this is just a natural evolution in that process.
Coach, I appreciate you, man. And thank you all for tuning in to our YouTube Live. Subscribe to our channel on Coaching Process Wins channel. And look for us on the forum. You can find the forum link at our site, surface2airsystem.com. Go to the forum there, surface2airsystem.com. Coach, appreciate you, man.
Have a good one, man.
Bye.